The final part of the Parallel World trilogy. From Thailand to the USA, a journey of uncompromising beauty and charm. This part engages with the thrills of a ride that I'm sure every biker would like to share. India was hard, and by the time I got into the Fairlawn Hotel in Calcutta, into my usual room, I'd had enough. And then I rode 700 miles down the length of Thailand, mostly in the rain. It's monsoon time, so it just rained all the time. The roads were good, but the weather was wet. Thailand in the monsoon. For 2 days and nights, it hardly stopped raining. I was on my way south from Bangkok to Singapore to catch my flight to Perth. I didn't mind the rain. In fact, it made a pleasant change after the heat of India. The lack of animals on the road made this part of the journey easy, so I just rode and rode until I got to Singapore. I'm now in my scummy little room in Singapore, in the red light district of Geylang. All the hookers are downstairs, or probably half of them in the hotel. And my room looks like a Chinese brothel, because I've done my washing, because I've only got one set of clothes. So I want to be nice and clean for my flight to Perth tomorrow. There are lots of nice hotels I'd prefer to be in. I used to stay in nice hotels, I don't know what happened. Just go on longer journeys, which cost a lot more. So the money has to be kind of, spent appropriately. I've just been around Singapore, it's been cool. It really is a city of light, a city of illuminated buildings. There's a quite extraordinary contrast compared to some of the places I've been to recently in India. You just see the difficulties. You see the beauty of the people, of course, but in terms of the landscape, or if you like, the urban geography, it's squalid and it's dirty. It's just one great big rubbish bin. which no one seems to clean. By contrast, Singapore is just extraordinarily clean and beautiful and brightly lit.
Singapore is one of my favourite countries. It has a neatness which few other countries has. I've been many times, and even though it might feel artificial, it's safe to be anywhere here, day or night. It was a great way to see how contemporary buildings had been integrated with colonial architecture that had been so successfully restored. Perth, West Australia, and more hoops to jump through. Fumigators at the docks, Australian licensing, and another service, oil, filters, and a set of tyres. Then I set off across the Nullarbor Plain. For me, one of the most beautiful areas in Australia, desolate and delightfully devoid of people. Eventually, I made it to Port Augusta on the southern end of the mighty Stuart Highway.
So nice just having a day off the bike. I'm in a hotel and I'm in Port Augusta and I'm writing the book, so it's not really a day off. The book's got to be ready a week after I get back, and so it's got to be written on the road. I've got to head up from 5 o'clock tomorrow morning up the Stuart Highway up to Tennant Creek, where I turn east and then head down the Queensland coast to Sydney, and I must be in Sydney in 5 days' time. And then I fly the bike and myself out to Buenos Aires, and I've decided to go to Buenos Aires as opposed to Santiago de Chile because it means crossing another continent, which is great. I can't get down to Tierra del Fuego because there's too much snow. It's the middle of winter and we're talking serious southern latitudes, 55 degrees south or more. I always knew that to be the case, was ever hopeful, but it isn't going to happen. So I'll go from Buenos Aires straight up to Alaska, New York, and then back. I'm looking forward to it. Because whilst I'm in Australia, it's such a big country and it's great, but it's not always easy to find interesting people at short notice. You know, you shove a camera in someone's face and you know, they don't always have anything to say, and fair play to them. Why should they?
Yeah, Australians are...
people, you know, you like, people you don't like.
It's a...
And there's enough people around that you don't know, so...
they're individuals.
It's enough.
I just don't know.
And this is the most interesting thing that's happened to me all day, yeah, a trip to Iron Knob.
No, I had to come through Iron Knob to go to, where am I going to? Where are we going to today?
I try, and it doesn't always work out. And some days I do not speak to anybody. I'd have high expectations for a journey, and sometimes the journey can't give what I want it to give. But nonetheless, it's a great ride. It's been an amazing journey. But my mindset is now heading back towards my home.
Well, this is my room, my living room, and it's truly an adventurer's living room.
Wales, my kids, and also, you know, my girlfriend. Because underneath all of this, I'm just a normal bloke and an ordinary chap just doing extraordinary things. I'm just riding my bike. It's just that I do it a bit quick like around the world.
The Stuart Highway, one of the great roads of Australia. Men sweated and toiled to lay it. And along the way, I saw salt licks you normally associate with Bolivia and the Andes. And further up this colossal engineering achievement, I stopped off at a place where the feel of the gold rush hung in the air. And alongside piles of dirt dug up by miners, my journey was bathed in the light of an Antipodean sunset. And you know, the miners, they just spend all day down here. And for years and years, you know, digging for opals. It's an extraordinary life. And sometimes in the summer, you know, apparently it approaches 55, 60 degrees centigrade. Some make it rich, some become opal millionaires, others don't. And even the rich ones, they squander it. Beer, women.
The backpackers here is an underground backpacker, 6.5 metres below the ground. Was originally an old opal mine from 1960. The people who at it at that stage, they found that the tourists coming through were interested in how opal mining was done and why the people were underground, and they realised the temperature was very, very pleasant as opposed to being the harsh conditions outside.
I didn't really know where I was going, except where the road was to take me. Not far south of Alice, I pulled into a roadhouse I'd passed many times before. There's a place called Stewart's Well. It's a little roadhouse on the way to Alice Springs, and it's about 90 kilometres from Alice Springs. And it just occurred to me that I know a guy called Jim, and he's got this amazing dingo and called Dinky. And Dinky is a singing dingo, and he sings every night for people. So, well, I was trying to get to Alice Springs tonight, so it's only 90 k's tomorrow morning, so I'm going to stay here tonight and listen to Dinky. Great. Jim.
Oh,
hello.
Nick, isn't it?
Yep, that's it.
Gee, it's been a while.
I've passed by your place every time for each of the last 7 trips around the world.
God, you need a bit of a haircut too. You're a bit rough in the head.
Yeah, thanks.
You're supposed to wear a helmet when you ride a bike.
I know, yeah. Are you still, have you still got that dingo and you're doing the singing dingo performance?
Yes.
Great.
He's the best thing I've ever had. The biggest attraction we've ever had. Believe me.
Are you performing tonight?
No, but he is.
Oh, he is. Great. What time?
Oh, what time is that? Yeah, I reckon about 7:15.
7:15, great. So time
7:15, 7:30.
So time for a shower.
Yeah,
and then I'll come
you
back.
need it, I
All
tell
right,
you.
yeah. All right, Jim.
Go,
I'll see
get
you in a
out.
minute. Good to see you.
You need
Ta-ra.
a shower. Bye.
My accommodation was in the back of the site. It was the end of the day, and the only time when I really managed to hear sounds other than that of the bike. The birds weren't the only things that were going to sing to me that evening. What's Dinky like?
He's really good as a pet, yeah.
Dinky, musical.
What's his singing like?
Loud.
Better than a lot of people, so I've heard.
How well known is Dinky?
He's known all over the world.
He loves playing the piano and singing. He loves little kids for lunch, tea, breakfast.
You know, your normal pet dog might bark at a fire engine siren or something, but most dogs don't react to piano and sing like Dinky does.
Come, come. We have an audience. Come, let's go. Yes. Oh, good evening. How are you all? You're well? That's lovely to hear. I'm going to introduce you to my friend Dinky. In my family, the Cotterill family, have been in Alice, as I said, since 1952. My father, Jack, got involved with tourism. Palm Valley, his company built the first accommodation at Ayers Rock in the late 50s. Then we opened up Kings Canyon. We were out there for 30 years. And we had to leave the Kings Canyon area in 1990. and I started here and built another small place. So we're really 3 generations of tour operators in the centre. And as you leave Alice and go north, you rise up through these granite boulders onto this flat plateau. Beautiful cattle country, there's Mitchell grass plains, there's mulga scrub, and the first place you come to is Aileron, and then each roadhouse you come to has got its own character.
Up the way, the small roadhouse of Barrow Creek was another one of my haunts. Every world trip had taken me past this isolated settlement, and it was one of the most charismatic and charming buildings on the Stewart.
We have all the old banknotes up on the wall, and we tell them, yeah, we got some from their country, like their old notes before they had the euro notes and all that, and they ask questions about the area and that. And
the people who built it were real pioneers, real adventurers. They built stuff here from nothing and created new lives. And again, up the road, aliens descended down to the Stewart to make a new life here also.
You forget that it's really silent out here. Problem on the bike with all that noise, you get into a thought, good or bad, and you can't get rid of it. It goes round and round. Every biker knows this. It's like a loop. For me, my technique with a bad thought that goes round and round and round in my head on the bike is like, I say to myself, Nick, think nice thoughts. You have to program yourself into getting back into a nice way of thinking. Otherwise, you just do your head in with this desperate, destructive way of thinking. It works.
And this is the first traffic light that I've seen in about 3,000 or 4,000 miles. Yeah, it's a very exciting day today. Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look at it. Here we go. Yep. A traffic light. I can't wait to see it change. That'll really make my day. I found an animal at last. I can't believe it. It's the first animal I've seen in Australia. I think it's a porcupine or a hedgehog. Come on, there you go. Oh yeah, that's it, that's it, that's it, that's it. Go on. Oh well, we'll leave him be. But I've got to get to Sydney now because I've got to get the bike freighted to Buenos Aires, and I should be there well tomorrow morning, but that might mean a night ride. And then I fly out on the Thursday, and then obviously from Buenos Aires I'm heading up north, up South America. But I've got to go up, I'm going sort of south down Queensland, down a middle route. I think it's the Carnarvon Highway, and it'll require at least another 600 or 700 miles today, and maybe nearly 1,000 miles, I'm not sure. But it's a long way. It's alright, I like riding my bike. I've decided to change my route to get towards the coast because there won't be any kangaroos there. So there's about 350 to 400 miles across country to the coast, and then I go south from Brisbane to Sydney, which is another, I don't know, 500 or 600 miles, 500 miles. But there won't be any kangaroos, so it'll be safe to ride at night. And but I've decided to change my tyres. I mean, I've done this set has done nearly 12,000 miles. I mean, I could have got to Sydney, but I just popped into a Yamaha dealership and they've just decided to change my tyres just like that, you know, with no kind of advance appointment, which is just like the way Australians are. So fantastically helpful. What do you think of the back tyre, Tom?
Should be slightly, just a little bit warm.
So I don't have to worry about that when I get to the freighting on, Tuesday morning, tomorrow morning, because the bike's going out to Buenos Aires.
the day after.
By Sydney, it was time to pack up the bike for its voyage to Buenos Aires.
There's a few things you've got to do for the bike before it's allowed onto the plane, which is obviously disconnect the battery, which I've done. I mean, you're supposed to deflate the tyres, but that's not really that important. Also, you know, drain the petrol tank, but you can't get it all out because obviously some left at the bottom, so that's why you get the dangerous goods certificate. That's mostly gone. And they say you should take drain the oil, but I never do that. It's not really essential. And then it goes into obviously it's crated into a box, and then it's taken to the airport and goes through customs, and then eventually it's put on the plane, and that's it. Flown out to Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires, the city of Eva Perón, the Paris of South America, and one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It's also a cafe society of cultured and sophisticated individuals, far away from anywhere, but deeply embedded in the European mindset.
Buenos Aires is by far every big European city there is in one place.
If you go around the city, you will see this influence.
It's a plethora of the biggest cities, the biggest cultures.
It's in the city. The architecture of the place, different old houses, French mostly.
It is the Paris of South America.
The influence we got from the European people, the architecture of Buenos Aires, the great amount of people who came from Europe in the beginning or the second part of the 20th century after the wars. A lot of people came from Europe.
The parks, the architecture, the long roads, the wide roads, the way we communicate, the snobby women, the way they dress in the city is absolutely the same as Europe. Look, the spirit and camaraderie in Argentina, not just Buenos Aires, but it's the fact that people really, really care here. They really do care about each other.
Likewise, Caffè Tortoni epitomized everything there was about cafe life. Poets, politicians, princes, and the good and the great, the obscure and the culpable, all met here. It was a mahogany beauty of huge charisma and style.
It's like going to the psychologist, for example, because you are alone with your helmet on. So you are surrounded by your thoughts, and that's all. You are riding, the bike is moving, but your head is someplace else. Sometimes you are like watching a movie when you are the main character. And sometimes you can change things, you can see what you made wrong or what you can change in the future in your life. So some people say you are crazy because you like to ride alone, but you don't have to be afraid to be alone with your head, because if you've done something wrong, it always comes to you. And then this is what people is most afraid of remembering or trying to see that what they made wrong. But if you are okay with your life, and you are a nice people, or you try to be as good as you can, you won't have trouble to be alone with your own head, because everything is okay. Or another thing that I really enjoy about riding is meeting people, because when you ride, even that you are alone, when you are on the bike, you have to pull over to buy gas sooner or later, and somebody will come and talk to you, and then you start a nice conversation, and you can end living in some family's house for 3-4 days or a week, or maybe they can feed you, they invite you some meals, because people like stories. you're a good storyteller, you always will have a nice plate of food in front of you, as long as you are entertaining, as long as your stories are not lies, but are not boring. And that's it. That's also a nice thing, because you always meet nice people, and one day you can be having dinner with a multi-millionaire guy, and the next day you're having dinner with a bus driver or a truck driver or a very poor guy. But it doesn't matter, because you always learn from these people, from the rich one or the poor one. It's always nice to share experiences.
Right, Eric, so where am I going tomorrow?
Well, the idea is to ride from Villa Carlos Paz, which is here, the place we are staying right now, up to San Salvador de Jujuy, which is the last big city in the Argentinian country. It's about 1,100 kilometers away from here.
Eric represented what I admired most about a world biker. He was kind of humble on a small Jawa and more interested in other people than he was in himself. Modesty is something men praise but mostly pass by, but not with bikers like Eric. I was now to ride north towards the foothills of the Andes. The scenery became sparser, the colours more brown, and the space quieter. The journey was beginning to take on a different complexion. Soon, I would find a small town and a hostel where I could bed down for the night.
It's more being Latin American than being Argentinian. I mean, I feel more part of Latin America than Argentina, and it's something to be proud of. We're like really messed up people, but we're survivors, and I think that we're close, people who are close to each other, and you'll always find someone who'll help you out. You know, we're not cold, we're warm, and I don't know, it's like family. It's like a huge family. It's being Latin America more than being Argentinian.
Heading towards Bolivia, the Bolivian border, nearly at 3,500 to 4,000 metres, which is 12,000 feet. And you find the most colourful cemetery on the side of the road. A spot of colour just kind of pokes out behind a wall. And you see it from the road and you stop. And it's just the most remarkable resting place. So much colour. There are graves here with just the size of very small babies, and you can just hear the wind droning through the Quero, through the hills. It's a very isolated spot in northern Argentina, on the Altiplano. It gives a sense of real peace, and also a sense that being here is a real gift, being on the road. Being on a bike, being alive.
All day I have ridden out of the plains, bit by bit ascending to the higher altitudes of a mountain range that stretches from southern Chile to Bolivia. The road is a dirt track with corrugations. After riding across the Nubia, this track is gentle by comparison. There are few trees and bushes, just the most wonderful views of the lower Andean Cordillera upon which this part of Bolivia is built. The landscape changes quite suddenly from the flat to steep-sided rock faces, pricked by an icy blue sky. Roads as straight as the horizon change into broad sweeping bends that penetrate deeply into red ochre sediment, which by the late afternoon soak up the light from a gently decaying sun. I've left the Badlands down near Tupiza, and I'm now climbing into the Altiplano, and the altitude's about just approaching 4,000 meters, which is about, I don't know, 13 or maybe 14,000 feet. And you can feel the low oxygen content and the thinness of the air. It's very evident. And I'm 200 kilometers away from Ururi, which is the nearest town where there should be some gas. And of course, I'm typically unprepared. I've no food or water. And there's just no one here. But it's a gorgeous place. I mean, the road is very bad. It's rippled and corrugated. And if I'd known it was quite as bad as this, I might not have come. But my trusty R1 is coping really well. And so far, so good, eh? And it's 10 days to New York. And I've got to get through Bolivia and into Chile, Ecuador, Peru. And then I've got to get the flight from Bogota to Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, across Mexico, and then across the States. I've arrived in Otoshi, which is another 3 hours to Uyuni. I don't quite know where I am, but I'm in some sort of rather southern central Bolivia, and the road has been pretty bad, and I've just crossed a very low level stream bed and more sand. I'm at 4,000 meters above sea level, and on the Altiplano. The road's still corrugated, there's quite a bit of sand, and it's very windy. But I feel okay, I feel fine. But it's going well, I'm really enjoying myself. Bolivia's incredibly friendly. I'm not sure whether it's a mistake coming to Bolivia. It's been a phenomenal experience, but it's extremely slow. Bike's performing well, no punctures, nothing, the engine's going well, no fork seals are blowing. Just seems to be cool. Yeah, very, very, very good. And this is what I have to do to make the film. I've got to set up the camera and tripod, pull the bike round in gravel, ride away from camera and then ride back, after which I run back to the equipment and pack it away. This happens 50 times every day. Bike's got stuck, and I don't know, it never. God, I can't believe it. The R1 just isn't suited for sand riding, especially not at 4,000 metres in the Altiplano, and there's no one around, so I had to dig myself out. So this ranks as the third toughest day in the third toughest section of the trip. And I'm beginning to feel that, I've been on the road for 5 months. This ride to the top of the Andes is the third hardest ride of the trip. I am sick with fatigue sometimes, and whenever I climb off the bike, dry vomit into the sand. Even absorbed by so much beauty, it is hard to stand. The wind, the sand, and the corrugations batter the senses out of me, and for 15 hours a day, I ride my bike across the desert, alone. Before night falls, I must cross the Andes, 15,000 feet. When the sun is high, the wind penetrates every bit of you with its insistence. At this altitude, wind chill is a killer. At the beginning of the day, there is no thought of how the day will be. At the end of the day, I know I have had one of the hardest motorcycle rides of my life, and also one of the best.
When the wind drops, the mountains are just cut into an icy blue sky. And the salt lake and the brownness, it's just extraordinary. It's like a painting. It's like painting on glass. It's almost not real. There are some places which are so beautiful, so sublime. It's hard to put what you feel about them into words, but that's how I feel now. Just gone over the top of the Andes on the way down to Chile, but I've got to make a rush now, head towards northern Chile and across Peru. That's it. On the Panamericana in Peru. Welcome to the best road in the world.
James Dean said, "Dream as if you'll live forever, live as if you'll die today." This trip epitomizes that. It's a road journey of the most extreme kind, and for weeks I rode hard across landscapes of the most extraordinary magnitude. I've not had a day off since I left England, and when I saw this seaside town I so badly wanted to chill. I'd ridden over 30,000 miles and had been away from home nearly 5 months, and I knew it was time to return. I'd crossed the Peruvian border into Ecuador and was now in the beautiful city of Cuenca. Not all my overnights are spent huddled in a damp sleeping bag on the outskirts of some town. Occasionally, I book into a nice hotel, and this one was particularly cool.
I'm so tired. I can, hardly talk, hardly stand. I've done about 700 miles today from Peru. I got up at 4 this morning, trying to catch my air freight flight from Bogota in Colombia. But it is a bit different when you're out here. It's not quite the dream thing you think it is. It's not perfect. I arrived in Cuenca in Ecuador, having crossed back into the Andes again, and I was feeling really fed up. And then I just bumped into this hotel, like amazingly. Fate's like that, a little point of synchronicity, where all of a sudden you're feeling down, and then the gods look to you and they say, "Hey, you're having a hard time. We'll give you a present." I know what I want.
Like when you get up in the morning, you can feel good or bad. Well, the feeling of a country changes in a similar way. Some years, Peru is good and Colombia bad. El Salvador's having a fight with Nicaragua, and Argentina's having a crisis. Just now, Ecuador's star is rising. High in the Andes, however, the cloud covers us all. As I climbed on my bike, I was reminded how far this journey had still to go. It was also clear that how you felt about yourself that day kind of affected how you felt about where you were, and on the way to central Ecuador, a band lifted my spirits. Up the road I made it to Quito, the capital of the country, a little north of which was a beautiful hacienda hidden away in the trees, and I spoke to owner Gabriela about life here.
Well, this is the oldest hacienda of Ecuador. This hacienda dates from 1580s. And before the hacienda was here, we have a long settlement of pre-Inca and Inca people. This hacienda had many owners. We have from the Borgia, who were expelled from Italy, to very important people from Ecuador, like ex-presidents.
How long does it take to get from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere? Well, like that. You see, because the equator.
The equator cruises through along the world for several countries in Africa, the Amazonia, but this is the only place where we have highlands. And the highlands give us the best horizon where we can have fixed points to track the movements of the sun, the moon, the planets. That makes this region the best place around the world for astronomical observations using the horizon. That's why 270 years ago came the French academic mission to Ecuador to prove the thesis of Isaac Newton that the world was flattened on the poles and bulged on the equator.
We have a millimeter of precision, and this had been positioned with GPS. This monument is about the sundial, and this had been designed to not only to observe the hours, it is also used to observe the calendar, the different months of the year. The equator becomes the line that joins together the two hemispheres to make one world. So there's a parallel world.
Apart from road traffic accidents and the enthusiasm of motorists who want to get a better look at you, Colombia is no longer a dangerous country for foreigners.
We are just waiting. It's just a little difficult in these Colombian roads. There is an accident over there. A crane fell down over over the road.
Well, a crane's fallen down in the middle of the road, so it's a bit of a problem. And I might miss the flight to Panama, so it's a bit tricky. Time is really short.
The drug lords and traffickers, and the war against the government and the police forces were very hard. In this moment, all those big guys have been shut down. Many of them are in prisons in America and in Colombia. So the real situation in Colombia now is different. You can see that you go everywhere, and different small and big cities, and the people behave very quietly. So we can say that in this country, even though we have some, as I said before, some financial problems, so we are happy. Most of Colombian people is happy. So for that reason, we can give a message for all foreign friends that you can come here safely, and you're gonna find a quiet place and very good place. This is Colombia.
In terms of hostage-taking, Colombia once ranked alongside Afghanistan and Iraq as one of the nations where abduction was most likely to happen. Now, everyone wants to impress on you how safe it is to be here and how friendly people really are. For me, that was a relief. And when kidnapping was most prevalent, I crossed the country from Ecuador to Medellin before boarding a ship at Cartagena. Nothing bad happened to me then, and nothing bad happened to me now. Anyway, I wasn't the sort of person to worry about banditos. In fact, instead of stealing from me, I reckon they'd lend me some much needed money. After a hard ride to Bogota, I caught my flight to Panama. It took me 3 hours and 20 minutes to ride the 250 or so miles from Panama City to the border with Costa Rica. Panama City is famous for its banking, its canal, cigars, hats, and for having the largest marine registry in the world, but not much else. I slept somewhere, and the next morning set off early in a sea of fog. Caribbean winds wrestled with those from the Pacific, and the mingling of the two gave rise to an extraordinary jungle foliage that ventured as far as the road. By noon, I'd reached the border where my fixer found me. Chaps like him make getting through frontiers easy, and without him, I'd be there for hours.
This is my fixer. He's looking after me, right? Is that right? Yeah? Good lad, well done. Thank you. He's getting all my paperwork sorted out to go into Costa Rica.
Todo bien.
Yeah. Lots of bits of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of rubbish which we'll throw away.
Yeah.
Lots of little $1.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Todo bien. Perfecto.
Yeah, you got me through actually really quickly, didn't you? Yeah?
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Oh. I thought you were a rogue, and you probably are.
All right.
But you're a good one. Yeah? Ta, pal. Ta-ra. So you've got my paperwork, you've got my insurance.
Yep.
You've got my entry permit.
Yep.
Passport sorted.
Uh-huh.
Licence sorted out.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen the nice lady who's the police lady.
Yep.
You like her, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought you did. Thanks, Charlie.
Okay, you're welcome.
Granada, Nicaragua, is one of the most charming small cities in Central America, named after the ancient Spanish city of Granada by Hernandez de Córdoba. Being the national tourist hub of the country, it attracted characters such as John Oliver and a motorbiking American on his travels.
All right.
And I'm from England. And where are you from?
I was born in Pearl Lagoon. It's a small town right 30 miles to the north of Bluefields, which is the principal town on the Southern Autonomous Creole Community of Nicaragua.
Well, that's fantastic, and you're a
You
great
know,
singer.
Yeah, my great-great-grandfather was a British pirate, Walter Campbell. It's true. My smile is not too nice, but I just can't help it.
You know, honestly, you are a great character. Your grandfather was a pirate.
It's true. Walter Campbell, he ran away with some rebellious slaves and ended up to Kern Island. And after he released them from shackles and cuff, and they celebrate that day up to now, the Crab Soup Day. On the 27th of August in Kern Island, we celebrate the traditional Crab Soup Day. This here culture make me feel so great. Everybody come and celebrate. Oh Lord, this here crab soup make me feel so great. North and South and Sally, Peachy and Brick Bay, up the hill. Everyone celebrate this day. Emancipation, what we need is freedom. Cause this is no more slavery, I say. Emancipation and the crab soup day. 27 of August.
I love that, mate. Honestly, that's so great. Thank you so much. That's fabulous. Well done.
Jah Rastafari.
Instead of competing with 19 other automobiles on the road, you're by yourself. You may have to avoid a cow now and then, or a donkey in the road, or a kid playing with a soccer ball, or football, as you like to say.
Basketball.
But as opposed to that, you're most of the time, 90% of the time, you're coasting along by yourself with your buddies, and you don't have to worry about other cars passing you, other cars hitting you. I feel it's much safer than traveling in any big city.
Cuenca, Mexico. The main square thronged with people, strolling in the sun, relaxed, happily oblivious to me. After such a long journey, I'm sure that the role of the traveller is to sit quietly on the sidelines and take in what the world wants to show, and return to tell the folks back home. As a biker, I knew that being on the road is all you have, and as I rode home I began to realise how much it meant to people like me and people like Helmut Kunkel.
I have 3 bikes. One is BMW 11 GS. This is Honda Transalp. I make many parts self. And my third bike is Yamaha XT 600. It's very old, it's single motor. The biking is for me, for my body and for my interesting. See, this is for free. Yes, I am now on the corners and all. I go in the world and see the persons that this is interesting and fun. See, traveling is fun.
I'm in southern Mexico under a motorway bridge and it's raining again, and I've got to ride through the night again, like I did last night in Guatemala. And you know what I want, mate, is I want me dinner brought to me on a tray, and I want 3 meals a day, yeah, and I want a helicopter pickup. And if it starts to rain, I want a bloke to come along with an umbrella and keep me dry. And if my bike falls over, I want someone to come and pick it up, thanks, because I haven't got it right. I'm stinking cold, I'm wet, I've hardly any money left, and you know, and my back tyre's really bald, right? And you know, and I've still got like 1,000 miles to get to San Antonio.
Me and Ron at Joe Harrison's bike shop, San Antonio, Texas. Once again over 11,000 miles on the tyres, and it was time for a burnout. Rumour has it that I never clean my bike. Well, I don't, but I know someone who does. The lads here wouldn't let me go before they'd made a respectable man of me and my machine. 5 months, 35,000 miles, and 41 countries after leaving. I'm now getting ready to return. It's due too, yeah. Yeah, good. Well, I'm home soon. I've got 1,872 miles to get to New York, so I'll probably ride non-stop, really. From here, 'cause I'm in San Antonio at the moment. Before I shipped my bike to Southampton, I met my friends Simon and Lisa Thomas, who were setting a Guinness record for the longest continuous circumnavigation. Like Eric in Argentina, they helped me encapsulate what it is to ride a motorcycle, what it means to be free.
Oh gosh, absolutely everything.
it's my entire life. It's our entire life. We've given up everything to be able to do it, and it has become our normal way of life. People say to us about when you return to a normal life, and for us, we're like, this is our normal life.
This has been it. Motorbikes 7 days a week. I mean, you've got to remember though, we set out on a 2-year journey, never thinking to ourselves that 5.5 years later, you know, we'd only be halfway through. But then we didn't know we were geographically dyslexic.
People think it's quite a glamorous life. They always think they want to do it. Is that the case?
Have a look around.
No, I mean, bottom line is, it's like life. It's not to be lived in a bubble. There are some problems, and it can appear glamorous because when you take photographs and when you want to share with people what you're doing, you don't want to share the horrible stuff. You want to share the stuff that you're impassioned and excited about. So you show the great riding. But we've had malaria twice each. We spent 2 months in hospital in Sao Paulo. There are times when it does get very difficult, especially when you're looking for a special kind of help, medical help, for example, and you're not a native speaker in Portuguese, for example, and you can feel very lonely because there's nobody out there to help us. We don't have any backup or support, and so we rely on each other 100% every single day.
However, I would say that if the good stuff didn't outweigh all of the bad stuff that can happen,
then you'd stop.
And you know, the rainy days, the muddy days, the wind, the cold, the not being able to find food.
Oh, that's it. I'm going. That's it.
Etc. Then you wouldn't still do it. You stop and you go home, and you'd return to your normal life.
But I think a lot of people look at you as well, Nick, and they go, well, it just looks so much fun. I mean, the problem is motorcycles are a metaphor for freedom, and that's all people see. What they don't see is the logistics and the weather and the issues and the breakdowns and the hours that you are just thinking inside of your own helmet space. I still think though, of all the friends and all the people that I meet, I personally know I'm the luckiest guy that I know, because we've got to live more in the last 5.5 years than I ever imagined I'd live in a lifetime. And one of the things that has come home is that travel is a privilege. It's not a God-given right. And I think we're both surprised after, you know, we've been living in a tent now for 5.5 years, and we're as excited about the next stage as we were the first stage 5.5 years ago. And that to me it's a thrill, but it is a surprise still.